Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, playfastfootball.blogspot.com. I get a lot of questions asked to me from people about how do you go about attacking 4-4 one-high defenses or 4-4 one-high structures, and could be man-free, could be three deep. And so I'm going to take a brief look today. We'll take a short look at understanding the structure of the defense to determine how you want to attack it and the different things you would do to attack that defense. I think a lot of times offensive coaches sometimes, unless they have a defensive background, I think offensive coaches sometimes have a hard time understanding, or maybe they understand it, but they have a hard time envisioning how certain formations might predicate the look they're going to get. Okay, so if I know the look that I'm going to get out of certain formations, then I know that I have to attack that look out of those formations. All right, if I'm playing a 4-4 cover 3 or man-free team, the first thing I want to look at is, does it change from one back to two back? All right, so obviously I can look at it from the standpoint of attacking a 4-4 structure, man-free or 3 deep, from 2x2. Okay, we can look at that and talk about the things we'd like to do out of 2x2 to see if we can affect that structure. And again, the possibilities a lot of the times are endless, whether it be right away people say, oh, we're going to throw 4 verts. I can throw curl flat. We can run flood. We can run, obviously there's a lot of different things you could do, okay? But to understand the structure itself and how you want to attack that structure, and then to understand if you change formationally while leaving twins receivers out but go from 2x2 to 2 back, do you get the same coverage to the twin side? And does it manipulate the box at all and make it a 7-man box one high, or does it still stay a 4-2 box with a 4-4 front, all right, in structure? Now, a lot of the guys that play 4-4 concepts like to be balanced on both sides and say, hey, got the same amount of guys on one side, same amount of guys on the other. I'm good. I'm balanced. If they want to run the ball at this side, I'm good. They want to run the ball back the other way, I'm good. All right, and a lot of times the first thing people look at is, well, let's motion guys and let's unbalance the formation and see what they do. And that's definitely a good answer. All right, but my first look is, while it's balanced, let me see how I can attack the balance of it without moving anybody around. Because also remember, as a tempo team, I don't like shifting, motioning, moving a whole lot. I don't like to build that into my offense. If I'm going to motion a guy, it's probably going to be into the run game. Very rarely will I motion a guy to change formations. That's not who we are. That's not how we play. Okay, so when I motion a guy, it's going to be somehow involved in the run game, or I'm going to try and add a number into the run game somehow, or into the read game. Okay? What I look at it is, how is that box different if I change from 2x2 to 2x1 2 back? Okay? So if I start in 2x2 and it's your traditional one high 4-4 structure, okay? Obviously the first thing I got to look at, is it a cover 3 structure or is it a man-free structure? Okay? So first thing might look at, for me, the first thing we would look at is I would push the running back out in motion to see the response that I'm going to get. Okay? If I get a linebacker that leaves when I push the back and I know it's man-free, I can now get 5-on-5 on the box. Okay? So I can get all the matchups I want in the box if the Mike linebacker has to leave with the running back in motion because it's a man-free team. Assuming that they want to leave a one-high post player and not spin the safety when that back motion's out. If that safety comes down when that back motion's out, to me that's a 0 structure. It's not a man-free structure. They're not going to gain a post player. What they may do is they may then be able to gain a low-hole robber player between the two backers, but they won't keep a one-high post player. If they want a one-high post player and a back motion's out, then they have to handle it with a linebacker. Now, if you motion a receiver across, they can spin the free safety down, but they'll spin the other safety back because they want to be a one-high structure. So if they want to be a one-high or a one-free structure, they have to maintain this one-free. How do they do that? If he spins, the other guy's got to spin. They can do that to receiver motion. They can't do it to backfield motion. Okay? So the first thing I would do is I would push the back. If the linebacker leaves with the back pushed, I know I got quarterback runs back up inside. If the linebacker doesn't leave, okay, if the linebacker doesn't leave, then I know that I have numbers to the front side. So very simply, I push the back out, the linebacker doesn't leave, I can block that, I can block that. I've got 2 blockers on 2 defenders with a back out and a flat. Okay? I haven't equated any numbers in the run game because they still kept 6 in the box. Free safety didn't move. Okay? Now I can handle all right, numbers by throwing that. For argument's sake, let's say the mic doesn't move, but the strong safety bumps a little bit. Same concept with stick. Now I can throw the stick with the mic in the box, with the strong safety out on the motion. Okay? So, first way to determine what they're playing coverage-wise, all right, if you're going into it blind and you don't know off of film what you're getting, push the back out, see if they run with them, yes or no. Okay? Obviously, a couple simple answers right there. All right? Another simple answer to equate numbers against these structures would be using your tailback, okay, or your fullback as a blocker and essentially using your quarterback as a tailback, okay? Why? 6-man box, 8-man front, 1 high with 2 slot players. These guys normally have to help the 1 high by either carrying the vertical or trying to reroute that vertical somehow, okay? These 2 guys in this structure of defense are very rarely going to be fall back in players in the run game. So even though they've got a 6-man box and I only have 5 offensive linemen, they're going to have a hard time fitting. Most of these teams on defense are going to try and use this guy as a hard, aggressive alley player to get an extra number in the run game. All right? They are usually not going to use these 2 guys to fall back in because the way they protect that guy in the passing game is by either carrying or rerouting or doing something to the 2 verticals, because everybody knows, all right, that this ripping and this ripping on that player is a big issue. So if they're 1 high structures, they're going to have to defend the seam somehow. Normally they'll do that by either carrying, so this strong safety would have to carry this, maybe with outside leverage like a match cover 3 team. He might have to carry this with outside leverage underneath it a little bit and funnel it to the free safety. If he does that, he's not going to be an added folding guy in the box. If this safety has to carry it, he can't fold in the box. So what we've essentially done is we've made this a stagnant 6-man box unless the free safety is going to come down, all right, and be a hard alley player. If the free safety is going to be down as a hard alley player, well, now that's not man free to me anymore. That's 0 coverage, and now I can get these guys. I know, whether it be rubs, wheels, post corner, whatever it is, I know that if I can protect it and this guy wants to stick his nose in, any play action, he comes down, I know that I'm getting man-to-man with no post player help. Okay? If it wants to stay a true post, a lot of times when you see 1 high post safeties in college or the NFL, that guy might be 18 yards, 20 yards deep to defend the deep middle of the field. That's the reason. Normally, if it's 1 high in the middle, he's there for a reason. He's there to protect against long runs. He's there to protect against deep passes. There's a reason they're playing that type of structure. By moving him either up in the run game, okay, or spinning with any type of motion, by losing the post player, they're losing the integrity of what they're trying to accomplish in the defense to begin with. Middle of the field closed, eraser on long runs or screen passes or anything else, all right? But it's almost a safety net in a way as opposed to a middle of the field open concept. All right, so you have to understand why they're playing what they're playing if you want to understand how to attack it. I would first start pushing back out. What do I get? Do I get numbers with the back out, or does the Mike or the Will or does the linebacker leave and I have numbers in the run game? Now that I've made it a stagnant 6-man box, though, now what I've done is I've now given myself, if your quarterback is a runner, okay, if your quarterback is a runner, and a lot of times in high school offenses he will be, you've essentially made them line up to a 1-back set, and you have 2-back runs. Okay, so you have 2-back ISOs. Okay, no reason out of that set you can't run a traditional power play. Again, if that box look right there stays stagnant 6 men, and he can't fold to help and he can't fold to help because of their responsibility to carry guys vertically in the seam, I now have 6 blockers to block your 6. Now it's going to become good on good, best on best. Okay? If you're going to wrong arm that, make the ball bounce, my guard can't get there, your Mike can scrape, eventually it's going to come down to blocking and tackling. If your dudes are better than my dudes, it's not going to matter. But as far as football coaching is concerned, if I know that I can get 6 helmets on 6 helmets, that's the way I can equate the numbers in the box. Okay? I can equate those numbers in the box by getting 6 helmets on 6 helmets by using the one back as a blocker and the quarterback as, all right, as a run. All right, now, if it was a man-free structure and they are going to spin or run with motions, then the next thing I would do is attack away from where the motion came from. So, we are generally, normally, or at least I am philosophically, a huge fan of running power read with jet motion. Okay? So I am a huge fan of this base play. So I'm a huge fan of 2x2, jet motion, power read, reading the 5 technique to the front side. It's either jet sweep or quarterback power based on what the 5 technique does. All right? Stay playing the offenses I run. I love the football play. I think it's one of the toughest to defend. I think it gives you a lot of options of things you can do. Okay? Now, if they are a team that is going to run with the motion, I still love the power read play because I think that guy running with the motion is going to have a real hard time chasing the motion down. If I get everybody on the front side blocked correctly, I think he'll have a hard time chasing the jet guy down if he's the only one unblocked and making a tackle for a short gain or no gain. I think if he has to chase the jet motion and I can manipulate everybody else the way I want to, in other words, this end doesn't squeeze, this end doesn't box it, he squeezes it, I give the jet, I can block the slot, I can block the corner, my tailback is a blocker for Mike on scrape or free safety or whatever, I still feel like I got a good play. All right? Where I may not have a great play, though, is if they use the free safety, all right, to come down and the weak safety spins back to the middle. That theory to me gives me a little bit more trouble if the free safety aggressively attacks the jet. And now, if the Mike is a runner and the end is a squeezer, now they're going to have the Mike and the free safety attacking the alley, as opposed to they have a hard time having the Mike and the weak safety running with the motion attack the alley. This way, the Mike and the free safety attack the alley on my tailback, and they have a guy unblocked. Okay, so if they're a team that likes to spin this way, realize that if he spins and he spins, realize what they are losing back here. Okay? What they are now losing back there is that primary force, secondary contained defender, so that now they have to figure out how they want to force runs coming back this way with that end and that will linebacker. All right? And then again, when they spin, I think I can equate the numbers back the other way. So anytime a team would spin the motion out of a 4-4 structure, first answer was always quarterback counter back the other way. And I know you're seeing a lot of those looks now in the bowl and playoff games. All right, I know you're starting to see that now. Motion and counters going away, but it was always our first answer. To teams that wanted to spin with motion, but still leave a post player. So what I'm talking about is a team that wants to spin down, spin over with motion when they get this flat motion. Our number one answer all the time, okay, the number one answer for us all the time was Q counter was our number one answer all the time when we saw a team spin the motion. Okay, because as soon as we saw a team spin the motion, we realized that as soon as they got somewhere near this position, on the back end here, they were losing the ability to contain. All right, they were losing the ability to contain. So what we realized was when we come back to run the counter play, if they do this structurally, that should maybe, depending on how they teach defense, this end might have to be a box player now and turn all runs back inside. So you can get this end kicked out. You can get your, all right, you can get your tailback up on that will linebacker. If that end stayed as a wrong arm type player, which a lot of the teams we see off of down blocks wrong arm, if he stayed as a wrong arm player, when he goes to wrong arm, they had better make sure the will gets out here over the top, and we still have a chance to redirect our tailback outside the log and still get a helmet on a helmet. So anytime we saw a spin in that fashion, leaving or removing a defender from this side, we always went back to either Q counter or some type of screen away. We attacked away from the jet when that was the rotation. Okay, so that was always the way we attacked that structure of defense. But the other thing I'd like people to take a look at is, does the look change any? Because a lot of times these 4-4 structures won't. A lot of times if somebody is a 4-4 scheme in nature, adding a running back to the backfield does not change the box. They stay 8-man front, 6-man box if you add a back in the backfield. So when I talk about understanding defensive structures, that's the first thing I would look at, okay, is as a coach, when I add a back in the backfield, do they change or do they stay in a stagnant 8-man front, 1 high? Because now if they stay in a stagnant 8-man front, 1 high, when I added a number to the box and they didn't change anything, I still have all the same passing concepts to the front side. I still have the ability to release 3 receivers to the front side. Okay? Doesn't matter whether it's the sniffer, the tail, this could be the sniffer back here and the tail over here. I still have the ability to get 3 receivers. This look on this side is the same look. That side of the formation is the same look I was in 2x2. Nothing's changed. Okay? Absolutely nothing has changed in that. But when I add a blocker to the box, and they stay with the same 6-man box, 8-man front, I'm now adding numbers into the run game, and they're keeping the same box that they kept from the 2x2. So they kept the same box, the same front in 2x2 as they did to 2x1. Then I'm going to love to go 2-back versus this structure, and now the possibilities become even more. All right, the potential becomes even more dangerous of what I can potentially do, because now I have 6 blockers and a back to go. So I can block 6, read 7 in an RPO, block 6, read 7 in an RPO. Now I can physically block the 6 in a box, whereas before, if I wanted to use the tailback in a mesh post-snap RPO, in 1-back, they had 6 on 5. Now I have 6 on 6. Okay, so when you're figuring out how to attack defenses, if it's a 4-4 cover 3, 1 high man-free structure, does that change any when you go 2-back? Okay, the other answer would be, if they are going to do this, all right, if they're going to do that when I go 2-back as opposed to when I'm 2x2, well then I don't know how much I like going 2-back if they go 7 inside the tackle box. There's a lot of things I could do to, you could still attack that box. It's not the be-all, end-all. But I don't like that as much as I like the other look. So if this team is going to go to this look when I go 2-back, then I may be better off staying one-back. If I like this look better than that 4-3 look in the box, then I may be better off staying 1-back. Okay? So that's what you have to understand when I say understanding defensive structures. All right? When I say understanding what you're going to get. If a team is a stagnant 4-4, 8-man front, post-high safety team, then I like adding a number into the box. I like adding, I still have 2 receivers here with a 3rd getting out, but now I have more blockers, all right, in the formation. That's just me personally. That's how I like to play football. Now, from a defensive standpoint, it's a completely different argument when I look at it from the way we defend, because the structure of the defense will change dramatically when you go from 1-back to 2-back. So if you're a lot of the teams that we play against on defense, or even the way we play defense, if you come out in that formation, you are going to get this generic look. Okay? So now in 2x2, you're going to get that generic look. So you have to understand in 2x2 how to attack that box. Okay? As soon as you bring a guy into the box, we are going to bring and change our numbers in the box. So now you have to understand how to attack that box. So again, what I'm saying is you need to understand what the defensive structure is of the team you're playing before you can understand how to attack it. If it's stagnant 4-4 cover 3, 1 high, man free, then you can go from 2x2 to 2x1. Look's not going to change that much. All right? If it's a split field coverage team or a 2 high safety team, and you go from 1 back to 2 back, and it goes from a 2 high safety look to more of a 1 high safety look with an 8-man front, you have to understand that so that when you now go to attack that, okay, you now realize that you're not getting, all right, the same look you got in 1 back. As opposed to maybe, I don't know how many of these you see anymore, but maybe teams that were traditional, potentially 4-3 cover 3 teams that maybe could defend 2x2 with guys in, you know, just in the box, apex in the box, and maybe they played some type of cover 2 scheme. So that when you go back to 2 back, it doesn't change. They leave the same 7 in the box and the same cover 2 scheme. I don't think you see that as much anymore with the ability to get the ball out in space to the slots on stand-ups, bubbles, smokes. So what you're getting is you're getting more of these backers halfway removing to help that while also still being able to fit in the run game, and then you're getting matching quarters or 2 read or different coverage concepts on the back end. Okay? So again, you know, started the conversation in how to attack 4-4 1 high structures. All right, but my premise in understanding that is, do you understand how they defend your 2x2 to your 2x1 formations so that you can understand maybe how to take advantage of that by changing formations? If the structure is going to change, then you almost have to attack those 2 things differently. If it's a stagnant 1 high 4-4 8-man front that doesn't change, okay, now I'm going to change the formation and I'm going to attack in a lot of the same ways and just add a blocker in there, because it's not changing the structure of the defense. So my game plan is not going to change all that much. All right? But if I'm attacking a structure that changes from 2x2 to 2 back, now my game plan is going to change slightly a little bit with the things I want to do in those 2 structures because of how they can defend each set. Okay? So if it's a 4-4 team and it's 1 high safety, cover 3, or man free, first thing I do, motion it back to figure out if it's man free or cover 3. Once I figure out what the coverage is, now I have the things that I like. If it's cover 3, I like getting the back out, running quarterback RPOs off of that linebacker, whether or not he moves. Okay? Cover 3, he doesn't move, I'm going to throw the flare all day. Cover 3, he expands, I'm going to come back and run quarterback draw. Man free, he runs with the back, I'm running quarterback runs all day long. Okay? Cover 3 and he doesn't want to leave with the back, he wants to stay in the box. Okay? Now if I want to run the ball against that box, I'm going to leave him in and use Q runs to make it 6-on-6. Always finding a way to equate numbers in the box, always finding a way to make it to where we have plays drawn up, where we feel like we have enough helmets, whether we're reading a guy or blocking a guy. Okay? So if it's 4-4 1 high, there are ways you like to attack it. All right? You like 4 verts, go ahead and see how they respond to 4 verts. If you see how they respond to 4 verts and they're matching and carrying those guys, then maybe you can RPO off of 4 verts with a quarterback run. 4 verts, they carry, you run quarterback power or counter, 6-on-6 in the box. Okay? Curl flat, flood, anything that can horizontally stretch a team to put more receivers in a space that those defenders can't cover. 4 underneath guys, unless they pattern match, going to have a lot of problems matching up with spacing or horizontal concepts, all right, that are stretching the field. Vertical seams are going to give it an issue. Plenty of things you can do to attack 1 high 4-4 structures. Man free, bring motion across, see what they do to motion. If they run or spin with motion, come back away from the motion with screens, quarterback counters, some other things away from that. Okay? So there's plenty of ways you can attack those structures, but to me, the biggest thing is when you understand how to change or slightly wrinkle your structure and get the same structure from them, that to me is a bonus. And that, the easiest way to do that is go 2x2 to 2x1. because you're only changing one half of the equation. You still have twins receivers and a back that can get out to a side, so you still have the ability to get 3 out. All right, the only thing you've changed is you only have a single on the backside. You've added a helmet in the box. All right, so you now have another blocker in the run game, but you've lost the receiver out there. Well, if they line up the same way and they play the same structure to that slight wrinkle in formation, then that's something I'd be looking at. Okay, well then let's add this helmet in here. They're not going to change the box look. Let's add this helmet and run it right at that box look. All right, so those are just different things to think about when I get questions about how do I attack 1-3 or how do I attack 4-4 teams. Obviously, I can draw up the things I like to 4-4, cover 3, or man free. That's great, but the next thing I want to figure out as an offensive coach is how do they change, or how can I manipulate that structure to either change, or if it doesn't change, how can I take advantage of the fact that it doesn't change? All right, so it depends on who you're playing, the region of football you're in. Do teams just stay in that all game long and play it and say, beat me? When you go to 3-by-1, now 3-by-1 is a little bit different animal because it structurally is completely different for you as a coach. You've gained things to the 3 receiver side, you lose some things on the backside, and to me, those pictures are completely different. And I think the defensive structure you're going to see is completely different. Now, if they're 4-4, 1 high to 3-by-1, then don't ever run another formation, hammer the trip side all day long. You should be good. Normally, that's not going to be the case. Even 4-4 teams will make an adjustment to trips receivers. But what a lot of 4-4 teams won't do is they won't change from 2-by-2 to 2-by-1. They'll keep the same front. And that's where I think you can make your money as an offensive coach, is add a back, keep one half of the picture the same, they keep the front the same, you're getting more runs, you're equating some things in the run game. If it goes from 4-2 box to 4-3 box when you add a back in, then that may not be what you want to do. You may want to keep a wide receiver out there and stay 2-by-2. So, great thing about football, the part I love about football the most is that chess cat and mouse game, to understand not only what you're doing, but what are they going to do. And the truly good or great offensive coaches know enough about defense to understand how that defense has to change to defend what you're getting into. And where I see a lot of mistakes made on offense is offensive guys get into a lot of good things, but they don't know what they're going to get from the defense, and those good things go sour real quick because they have a hard time teaching their kids what they're going to get, who they're going to read, or what they're going to see, because they've got a great idea on paper, but they have no idea what the defense is going to do, whether it be enough defensive knowledge to understand how they would handle that, or a lack of film to understand how they would handle that. Either way, you're doing something that you can't predict the outcome, and as an offensive coach, I feel way better when I know I can predict the structure, all right, of the defense. Now, one of the things that helps me is I've called both sides of the ball, so I understand how certain defenses are going to react to those things because I coach defense. So if you're an offensive coach, the thing I've always suggested, and I've mentioned on several other blogs, if you're an offensive coach, I suggest you study and become a defensive coach that can coach that side of the ball, because you will then understand how they treat 2-by-2 and 2-back and certain things different. Okay? But remember, with all these things like we always talk about, all right, it's great to have an answer with this, it's great to have an answer with these. Eventually your kid's got to play. Easiest way to get them to play, keep your concepts as multiple with simplicity as you can to get your kids to play as fast as they can, because they won't play well until they play fast. I'll catch you guys next time.